All right, let's go.
Yes, let's go for sure.
We're on the board.
We are. We are finally.
Well, so let's see whose prediction was best in it. I think it was yours, right?
No, I think it was Shane's.
Oh, he said the biggest lead. Oh, he had the most points on.
I think it was either Shane or you. One of you said 31-3.
I think that was Shane
I thought it
initially.
was Shane.
Yeah. Yep. Well, the good thing is that it was even better than that. Although now you watched. Did you watch it?
No, I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't find it on ESPN Plus.
Okay.
So no,
Well,
I did not watch it. I did the play-by-play.
okay.
I watched that, but no, I wasn't able to watch it. I uh, I went and I watched. I did the play-by-play. I did the box score and all that, just to kind of see how everything went.
Well,
But
let's.
no,
So before we dive too in deep on it, let's get a little UCTV. Um,
no, we have UCTV.
yeah,
You are just the best at this.
we'll get some highlights here. It,
You
it may
got
monetize us, but at least we get some Uconn highlights going, right? I mean,
you got all the production values. You got everything.
yeah, we got so at least we can make believe we know exactly what we're talking about, right?
Right. Well, no, I mean, yeah,
I'm joking. Obviously, we know, but
I looked at everything.
all right, we're ready. Let's go.
Oh,
Let's see how it
geez.
looks first before I play it. We don't need my stats on here. All right,
This
here.
is okay. This is what they put together.
Scores with both teams looking for their first wins of the season. Both sides
UCTV,
came into
baby.
this one hungry after scoring a combined 13 points in last week's games. UConn's offense came out firing on all cylinders with 5 first quarter touchdowns by 5 different players. After being held to just 1 touchdown last week, the Huskies were more than happy with their offensive explosion.
Oh, so
Your
okay.
objective always is get the ball to your playmakers in space and then let them use their natural ability to go make some great plays, make something great happen. And I think we saw that out of a number of players today.
With starting quarterback Nick Evers unable to clear concussion protocol, backup Joe Fignano was thrown to the spotlight and he delivered. Fignano was able to constantly facilitate big plays and efficiently move Uconn down the field. He was everything a coach could ask for out of his QB.
He was ready to go. He was ready to go last week. He was ready to go today, and he'll continue to be ready to go. That's just who Joe is, and that's one of the things we love about him.
The Huskies never looked back after scoring the most points in a quarter in school history, winning by a final score of 63-17. UConn's 56 first half points was also the most points scored in a half by the school all time. The Huskies will look to continue this momentum into next week when they take on Duke next Saturday. But for now, from Rentschler Field, I'm Brady Levinson, UCTV Sports.
Look at this fucking
Brady Levinson with the credits there, right? Huh?
God, that's
Look at
just
me with a little production value. So got it
that's
queued up, baby. Got it queued up.
already for us. We got to see the highlights.
You got to
That's
see Brady
hilarious.
Levinson, the heart of the UCTV sideline reporter.
He's gonna be on ESPN soon.
Yeah, Connecticut guy, obviously. Uconn TV, right straight from Uconn TV. So a little credit
Can you watch the games on the website?
on Uconn's website.
Yeah, yeah. Is that what? Because
ESPN3, you can.
oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
was it an ESPN3 thing? Was that what it was?
Dave, I don't know. I looked everywhere. I could not find it. I assumed it would be on ESPN Plus for sure.
It was. Let's see. Well, first thing I love to talk about. Obviously, the guy you've been bragging about, rightfully so. Edwards. They got the ball in his hand. I
Yeah,
think
but
that.
he didn't do much. It was the freshman that they
Oh,
fed.
freshman. I thought Edwards scored an early touchdown.
He
He
did.
did.
He
He had
did.
a 50-yard pass. Yeah.
But according to
He had a second touchdown run later on too. So who's the other guy? Darrell Robinson, right?
the freshman Darrell Robinson had 10 carries for 94 yards with a touchdown. He was the one that him and Mel Brown. Mel Brown had 87 yards. I mean, they had 1, 2, 3. I mean, they played 5 running backs. So, I mean, according to the legendary Coach Baylock, he said that most of the second teamers and scout teamers played this game. He said they got a lot of action. So that's why it looked like this.
Well, the Will Robinson was is a kid that was at Charlotte. Okay,
Yeah.
he
Yep.
went to St. Francis Academy, a big time high school program in Maryland. Went to Charlotte, transferred here, so he's a transfer.
Okay.
And then so
Mel
even though
Brown was the other guy.
Mel Brown, let's get the history on Mel Brown here. Mel
Brown had 87 yards in the
Mel Brown
touchdown.
Jr. was previously at Gardner Webb, 5'9", 180. Gardner Webb, which is FCS.
They're a good program. I think Gardner Webb's 2.
They're FCS.
Oh no, you're right. They're FCS. They're FCS.
Yeah.
And you know the record they broke was my record.
Touchdowns and a half.
No, the total score. We dropped 60 on Kent State my senior year. And that was the most points ever scored at Memorial Field. And I'm pretty sure that was the record that the Ginger was talking about that we broke. He's the little Ginger. I don't know. What do you want me to call him?
He did a pretty good job. I was impressed.
He's not.
Maybe we should get him on the show. What was his name? What's his name?
He's not Stuart Scott.
That was Stuart Scott?
He's not Stuart Scott. I mean, come on.
Let's get him on the show each week. Hold on. Let's get. Listen.
Let's get him on the show. The SID from Uconn won't even reply to me. Let's get him on the show. I can get Andy Baylock on the show. The SID won't respond to my emails.
That's all right. The Nebraska SID wouldn't respond to me when I want to interview a guy that I know already that used to work for me for 5 years. He said, just send the SID an email and he'll set it up for you. I email, he doesn't respond to me.
It's so disheartening. Disheartening.
I comment on the Trump administration. I am not in the Trump administration. These liberals, although Nebraska, I wouldn't say would be a liberal school. Actually, they would probably be a middle road. All right, so let me say here. So I was just curious what that kid's name was. I mean, this is completely off topic of what we're supposed to be doing, but I am curious. What was that kid's name?
Dave, if you have him on this show,
I'm gonna get him on.
My God!
I want him on as a guest.
We're gonna get you want the Ginger Towhead on as a guest.
Yes, I got to do it.
I'm gonna find him.
Brady Levinson.
I will find him on LinkedIn or Instagram or something. We'll find him. If you want Brady Levinson on the show,
I want to give back.
Jamar just commented that he's in the studio.
He's in the studio. Oh, okay. He's got like hold on. Let me see what he's got.
There he is. Oh, he's got
That's the Jamar I know and love. There he is. He's got a real studio. Oh,
that's why I told you he'd be prepared.
We sacrificed our football stadium for basketball championships. So
I know. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yes.
My favorite thing about Memorial Stadium was that it goes incredibly high up on one side, and then you're like, wow, that's like it
looks massive.
One stadium on one side, and then the other side looked like you were at Saddlebrook High School where I grew up. So.
And I listened to your last podcast about with the coach from Heights. And they're redoing it. They're redoing the field. So
are they really?
You said that they were.
No, he said that. Oh no, that they were redoing it. Yeah. Are they going to redo the stands though? Those are legendary stands. They can't do that.
I don't know. We go there October 20th weekend. We play the Saddlebrook little mighty Michigan Wolverines looking team.
Probably. Yeah, that's right. They have the winged helmets, right?
You're close to Jamar.
Yeah.
I'm where I'm from.
Okay.
Jamar lives in Hasbrook Heights now, right, Jamar? And that's his kids play youth football for Hasbrook Heights in Bergen County.
Okay.
Saddlebrook and Hasbrook Heights were like in the same youth football league, so he probably plays them and beats the what out of them too. But yeah.
No, Jamar. I think it was the year after Jamar left. We actually changed, and our home side was the side with the smaller stands. My senior year.
Yes,
by the hedges. By the hedges.
Yeah, it was because of the sun or something. It was some stupid reason why Randy wanted to do it. He said, I think it was because of the sun. So our home stands where the visitors normally were my senior year. I'll never forget it.
Randy
that was my goal, to knock someone into the hedges. That was always my goal. Like, I want to knock someone into the hedges.
Yes. Well,
I got Brian Hoffman in our scrimmage freshman year. Got him good, laid him out. Skip Holtz, Jamar Wilkins, do not touch the quarterback. And Hoffman was like, funny. Wow. Yeah, underneath the hedges and the bleachers. He went fly because he was fast. So it was just a collision. And he flew a little bit. So
Dave, if I can go back and find it, it was either on the Boneyard or the Uconn website or the Current. Dan Orlovsky, the first time they put him in his freshman year, we were playing against Eastern Washington, and they made fun of him, saying that he all his passes were to the hedges, and the great Dan Orlovsky comes in, and his first pass is to the hedges. They were busting his balls on that. I'll never forget it. It was in like a newspaper article that somebody said that.
And look at him now.
Look at Thunder Dan now.
Look at him now.
Thunder Dan now. Yeah. Yep. He was getting mocked for throwing to the hedges, and now he's an expert analyst.
Jamar, what did you think of the game this weekend?
You know what? I watched the game. I watched the highlights. I was happy with the performance. Because I was really, really sad about the Maryland thing. But before I got into why I'm sad about it, I went back and looked at Maryland. Maryland is a turnkey, right? They're just turnkey, right? They're in a groove. They're in a groove right now. Even last year, they won all their games in September. They played a bowl game against Auburn. So you have a bowl game, which is like your pre-spring ball, then your spring ball, and then your game. They just had older guys, older quarterbacks. So we just walked into that juggernaut, and they got punched in the face, rolling out the new scheme, and it didn't work out. And I spoke to Tommy Collins after the game, and he was just like, hey, the team's not really that connected yet, and it'll get there. And then I just watched the way that they played this weekend. They were fast. They had fun. They just had to get things right. Yeah, this game was a little bit of a fluffer, but I love the attitude that they played with. They played fast. Normally in these blowout games, it starts slow, right? You let the team be competitive with you. Yeah, it takes 7 a while to get going. It's slow, and then you blow them out at the end. I like that we took care of business early, got Mora stuff out, what he wants to do. A lot of the stuff I saw reminded me of his time at UCLA with the kind of hitting the gaps and kind of going full speed, hitting the 3 wides, the wheel routes. So I just like that we played faster, we played confident, and hopefully this kind of will carry over with some enthusiasm. But just the timing of the Big 12 and everything, maybe that was a distraction for the kids. But I think it's important for the team to kind of get really, really connected, because I also think it's like, what team can you compare this to in years past, where this is more a third year? But third year, you know how it is, Cully. Third year, you got your seniors, your juniors, the guys are carrying on that tradition. It's different because we're getting picked at by the
60
strings.
new guys. Yeah, they have 60 new guys. I thought Maryland was a middle of the road Big Ten team. You think they're going to be an upper echelon Big Ten team?
Yeah. You look at, Penn
Okay.
State had some trouble with it. And like I said, when you're preparing for Auburn for a bowl game, that's a good
Yeah,
spring
you're
ball
right.
right there.
You're right.
You're comparing against SEC teams, so that stuff carries over.
I didn't
And
think
that running back that they
So who do
had
you
was good.
Who do you think is an upper echelon team?
I think Maryland. I think Maryland's good. I think so.
Maryland's okay. I think
Maryland, like last year, they're 4-0.
They lost to
5-0.
Michigan State this week.
They did?
Who's not very good, yeah. They lost 27-24.
Well, they played them tough. Like
Michigan State's terrible.
Yes, Michigan State's terrible.
Well, they yeah.
Well, I don't want to bust anyone's bubble. So let's go back to the feel good.
Well,
let's go back to the 17 win. And that fact that we're going to have Brady Livingston on. That's the 18-year-old, the 20-year-old Uconn UCTV host.
There was a lot of turmoil going on at Michigan State. So.
Yes. And also that and Merrimack hang close with Air Force. Did I see that?
Yeah, 20-6. Yeah, it was awful. Both teams.
I think that it was an excellent. They did what they were supposed to do. Uconn. I think they did what they were supposed to do. I think they rebounded very well, which was I think when I don't remember who we had on, but maybe we should with Shane. We were concerned about how are they going to rebound? I think that was the key. Week 1 to week 2, did they improve dramatically? Yes, is the answer to me. They improved dramatically. That was a big thing because they got smacked by Maryland, and it could have easily been let's squeeze out a 24-7 win over Merrimack while we're licking our wounds. But they didn't do that. They smacked them 63-17, so like they should. And that tells me that the guys are buying into what he's trying to do. They didn't get down over the fact that they got hammered the first week. I think Maryland is a middle of the road Big Ten team.
Well, they're gonna win 8 games probably.
I mean, they lost to Michigan State, so I'm not sure. But I would say, Michigan State's kind of a shocker because they're in shambles.
Rutgers, Indiana. I mean, I think they'll beat them.
I think if you're a middle of the road Big Ten team, middle of the road Big Ten team is a top 50 team in the country. So I mean, there's no longer.
Right. Yeah.
If you're middle of the road in the Big Ten or SEC, those are the two big, gigantic conferences that are
you're
dominant.
right.
So it means you're better than almost everybody in America
in the country,
other than those two conferences, basically. So they're better than that. What I was surprised is that Maryland didn't put it on Michigan State, but obviously in the Big Ten, anything can happen. I think Uconn is definitely on the right path, which I was most concerned about, and I think they listened to you, Steve. Get the hands in the running backs' hands. Get those guys the ball.
Feed them.
And they rode those guys. What was most impressive to me of all of it was the backup quarterback.
Well, that's what I was going to ask about.
Fantastic job. And we talked a little bit about getting a third-string guy from Division I Big Ten school versus a guy from Maine who was playing, who's a player already. And that, I think, is going to be the poll all year long. Like, who are they going to go with? I like the kid from Maine. I thought that he came out and put the ball in everybody's hands. He ran when he needed to.
Yes.
He got efficient yards running. He didn't go backwards.
He spread the ball around.
Right? And in our schedule, that's the question. Is the guy who's the original starter, is he the starter because he's more dynamic? Potentially, I guess, because we saw the arm down the field type of stuff. And this guy might be the guy that maybe might be a more seasoned player because he's gotten on the field. And that's the question that you have with the two quarterbacks, because I think you got a quarterback controversy right now. Because if it was me, I would go with the guy that's the backup right now because he's shown that he can lead. Or you may have to I'm not a huge fan of split time at QBs.
No, we're not doing that.
You're gonna have to figure out who's more of the guy. And hopefully this week we find more of that out.
That's what I was going to ask Jamar, because Jamar has the most experience watching them. This Joe Fagnano, he was
Fagnano,
comeback player of the year. I guess he did okay last year. Nick Evers is the transfer. He's the guy that's supposed to be, the guy that take us to the promised land. What, in your opinion, do you think they should do at the quarterback position? Should they stick with Joe, or should they, if Evers clears concussion protocol, do you go with him?
I like Fagan. I think he was quicker. I think he was just quicker to the gun. I think he was a half second quicker, more confident, got it out, where Evers was just a little bit more kind of rattled. Obviously, two different spectrums of what you're playing. But, one thing about this game that I liked is I like the fact that we had some smaller teams, some FCS teams give us the whole time. I'm still having a tough time with the Holy Cross loss from several years ago when they came in and kicked our butt, where we had a tough time putting I think a few smaller schools. So I think the team rattled around Fagano, but also too what Uconn is like. Okay, Ryan Tracy came in and took over the team, and he shocked us at the Eastern Michigan game. We didn't know what to expect. But how many guys do you know that comes in and does their thing? Like even the Frazier, the Notre Dame transfer, he came in, stunk, but then he came back 2 years later to beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame. It's just sometimes with our school, and I think when I spoke to Tommy about the whole, when he was on, he was on the sideline because the team's not connected. You have a guy that's been there for 2.5 years, 3 years. He knows the team. There needs to be a connection. There needs to be someone that you kind of rally around versus, these locker rooms. It's very different from our time there, with NIL, who knows Evers got. You had to get him. You had to pull him.
Oh, I know. Burton paid for him. I mean, Burton told him.
So, okay, we got to put you in. It kind of reminds me of the Sean Watson situation in Cleveland. Like, you paid this guy. You got to play him. Yeah. But, trust me, the players know.
You're
and
stuck.
I just think we looked like a more connected team. Being home, lesser competition, those are different factors to consider. But just the kind of the way that we played and we came out, we played fast, we set the tone on things that we didn't do against Maryland. I think the kind of writing was on the wall there, but we're on the outside looking in. I listened to Locked On. I'm waiting for the Locked On other podcast that goes on to kind of get some other impact. I listened to Morris' press conference, and he was very, very happy about the team. I think, also too, I think, we look fast. We look like we got the athletes. So I think, speaking to a few guys up there from Bob Howard to Dave Kaplan, he says this is one of the most athletic teams that we ever had. They said that in the spring, and then you saw that Maryland game. It's like, huh? And then you saw how just the way they're flying around. We need that type of football to make it happen. I don't love the 3-3-5 defense. I hate it. I don't think we have the players for that. I don't think we have the tacklers for that. I want my great Uconn defensive ends to come off the edge. But I have to get used to that whole thing. Hopefully we'll see what happens when we go down to Duke, and we'll see what Duke is. I didn't see who Duke played the past 2 weeks, so I don't have any information on that. I think this
Jamar, let me ask you this, because I haven't seen how they play the 3-3-5. Do they walk up a fourth D lineman as a stand-up?
Yeah, they got two guys on the edge. It just
they do. Okay.
Yeah, they have three decent sized deep tackles, but it was you push them out the way. A guard comes over, a fullback sticks those guys. There's an alley. That's why they were getting 10 to 15 yards a clip on a run. It just, I don't think we have the personnel, the linebackers. You need to have
dogs,
skill guys to kind of do that. You need three monster D linemen that are 290 that can move a little bit. You need a fast Aljai. You need a sticker. I like putting four guys down and being creative with that.
You need a true nose that literally takes up both gaps. Because otherwise the tackles are in trouble because they're gonna be double teamed. If your nose guard does not literally take up two gaps in the 3-3-5, and I'm not talking high school 3-3-5, I'm talking college. That guy doesn't take up two gaps. Then those I don't know if you want to call them tackles or ends, whatever you call those two guys.
They're three
guys are in trouble because they're going to get double teamed the whole time. And if they get double teamed the whole time, then you have a situation where you're right. They're just going to kick out those walk up 3x3 guys and double team on the tackles. And they're just going to run C gap, and they're going C gap stretch. And it's going to be, and those guys are in a bind out in the edge. I mean, they close on the C gap play. They're going to come around the edge on them. They hold their ground. They're going to get kicked out. It's a bind. So the key is that if that nose guard really, really can hold his weight, then you begin to have a chance. That defense, even though everyone thinks that defense starts from the outside in, it really starts from the inside out.
It's that, yeah. And I mean, the first team I ever saw run that was West Virginia, right? And they had the personnel to do it, and they didn't. So I think
they got away from
the last Pat White years. The first Pat White year, they had the players to do it. Then they did it, and then they got gashed. It was just we even gashed them because you can just sneak in 2 tight ends and a fullback and exploit that and get 2 runs off easily before you have to match up. And then now you're catching up. You got to get one of your outside linebackers to kind of run the under scheme, roll him up on the tight end, and then you can just toy with them. So, if I was an offensive coordinator, I saw a 3-3-5 without the personnel, I would have a lot of fun with that because you're.
Did they put the walk up guy to the tight end side or to the boundary? Did you get a feel of to where they were walking up the 4th guy? I was curious about
the
that.
time I was turned off by it was when it was 14-0 against Maryland, and they just ran a trap, a handoff pistol formation trap.
Are you kidding me? An old school trap?
They ran double in the nose, washed him down, kicked out.
Yeah. And then one guy tried to arm tackle, the safety couldn't tackle. And then it was a seam, and it was gone. That was like, this isn't going to work.
That's the middle linebackers. If the nose guard is great, the middle linebacker has the ability to run. But the nose guard isn't great. Now they double team, and he climbs to the middle linebacker. It's an easy climb. If he is great, the middle line, those guys have to double team him. They have to. You got to hold them. They have to use both guards on him and then climb. But they can't. If they don't have to do it, it's if they feel like their guard and center are much stronger, and I don't know,
Yeah, and even blitzing, it's obvious. Right. Like even with us, it's just like the safety's walking over the corner roller, he's blitzing. So when we tried the blitz, it was here's a 10-yard hitch and yards after the carry. In the Maryland game, we didn't really tackle well. And listening to more, I think tackling was a key focus this week. Getting in front of guys and wrapping up, and the defense looked good, and quick 3 and out to get the ball moving. So let's just see. Maybe I'm just being a little bit saddened about it because I'm used to a traditional 4-3 or nickel defense with 4 D linemen. I want to see Sean May out there. I want to see Uya Sunday out there. I want to see our classic great defensive ends that we've always had at Uconn play. Not some skinny, linebacker that we just moved down to safety, and now he has to take on tight ends.
Yeah, it's a bad matchup, like you said, and you play that defense if you don't have the defensive line personnel. If you think you don't have 4 defensive linemen, that's when they go to the 3-3-5. And if you said like they're walking up 2 guys sometimes and playing like a 52 almost. That's scary. And as a linebacker, because you played Mike, that if the D-line is good at handling the double teams, I know we used to teach the D linemen to hold and try to take both guys so that we keep them from climbing to the next level. So you were free. What it takes for that to be successful. The linebacker's got to be free to roam, and he's got to he's your playmaker. Your D line's not going to do it. You're sacrificing your D line so your linebackers can make plays, and that's why you loved linebacker. You loved it. Would you say you liked it more than playing DN, or did you like playing DN more? Because that was, I know they moved you there.
Well,
But
DN was after you play linebacker for 3 years and you know how to watch film as a linebacker. Playing DN was just too easy. It was just too
that's what you
easy
said.
because I had playing middle linebacker. You just had 7 responsibilities. Same thing. Dave knows how it was, especially running a Rapone's defense. He liked to sub. He liked to put people down. I actually sophomore year I played outside linebacker, but I was a nickel defensive end. I was just rushing upfield. So playing defensive end my senior year was a lot easier of a practice, and it was just kind of it was my final. It was my play like your last play.
You were defensive player of the year. You had a great year.
But in middle, my biggest problem with middle was chasing a tight end, that was fine. But when you got put out in space and you had to chase a little scat back, 170-pound receiver running across you, and then he caught it and you had to make a tackle in space, that was when I didn't have the skill set for that. But filling, traps, counters, I saw the power. Oh, I love those.
You knew when it was coming. You could tell by the lineman stances and everything. So you said it when we blitz, because the whole thing about the 3-3-5, it's a pressure-oriented defense. So what you're saying is we don't disguise it very well. Like you can tell when it's coming and where it's coming from.
Yeah.
When we send five, okay.
And that's what all
roll the guy over the top. See, the 3-3-5, you really, because of the problem with the run game.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go in some version of man, and you have to, and you're blitzing it, and if you're gonna roll somebody over, you're gonna have to roll them over immediately. You can play zone, obviously, because you're up 3 down, so you can bring pressure playing zone.
Yes.
Bring 5 guys and still play some level of zone. The issue is the moving responsibilities for those 5 guys. So, the 4-3, or now what most people play is really
the
like
4-2,
nickel, right? Those responsibilities are a little more set in stone for the guys in their drops, like coverage wise. You really have, this coverage or that coverage, other than maybe when you're in man. But in the 3-5-3, the zone coverages move a little bit more because you're compensating for the guys when you play zone, because the guys are rushing, so you're constantly compensating. So not only do they have to be really good athletes, really aggressive guys in that defense, but they also have to really, really understand coverages, because it's going to move, depending on what you're doing from a blitzing standpoint. Unless you're going to try and really get a ton of pressure and play a lot of man. But what Jamar said is 100% right. If you're doing that DB is going to roll now. He's going to roll right now, and that's the first thing the quarterback's looking for. This guy's rolled up. Okay, why is he rolled up? Oh, all right, this is man. Cover one. They're in some version of it, right? So,
well, I mean, they looking at the box score. I mean, they did get 4 sacks. They did have 4 sacks. I don't know who exactly they were from. Tua Brown had a sack. It looks like Jordan Wright had a sack. Brandon Kelly had a sack, and Julian Simon had a sack. So I mean, they had 4 sacks and they had 10 TFLs, which is good, which is a good sign there.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see.
Duke hasn't really dominated in their first 2 games. So Duke beat Northwestern 26-20.
And Northwestern is not very good.
Yep. Northwestern's not good. They're the bottom of the Big Ten.
Yeah, they're down.
And then they beat Elon, which is FCS. What was it, 26-7 or something like that? Or
Elon, is that the school in Georgia?
North Carolina. They're in North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
So, but they're FCS. I mean, they're not like I mean, it's not North Dakota State.
No.
So I think UConn has a chance in this game coming up. I mean, I really do. I actually, Duke lost their coach and their quarterback. I mean, coach went to Texas A&M, quarterback went to Notre Dame, and I'm sure, just like anybody else, when that coach left and the quarterback left, they probably had some of the ancillary players leave too, right? That they probably had to replace. And are they replacing a team that was as good as they were last year with as good players with a new coach? Probably not. That's my guess. Probably not.
But it was good to see Jamar, like Skylar Bell. I believe he was a transfer. He had 2 catches and a touchdown. He had a 60-yard catch for a touchdown. And then that TJ Sheffield, he was another transfer. He had a couple catches. So the transfers that they're bringing in are now starting to produce a little bit.
And one of them said that he wanted to prove that he's one of the best receivers in the nation. Yeah.
Good. All right.
So I got a flag which one said that, and I thought that was interesting and quite confident.
Yeah,
because we would have definitely corrected that. But going to the Duke game, in this climate, NIL, new coach, new quarterback, that's blood in the water. So that's like, okay, we've been through this messy situation of new quarterback, new coach for the 3 times in the past 12 years. So we can smell what's going on in that locker room and what's the support system outside of it. So kudos to the kids. That whole Big 12 situation was a tough blow. Hopefully they're not getting blamed for it with the crappy performance, and them to go out there and put a performance on like that. Hey, 63-17 against anybody is something good. They put a good film out for it, but the next 2 weeks are going to be interesting because Duke and then also Buffalo. That Buffalo game is always important because we've always been on the same timeline as Buffalo. Buffalo doesn't have the benefit of being a school, the top state school in a university. Top state school in a state, or have a dominant basketball, field hockey, college program, baseball program like we do. But on the trajectory of just, athletics, we've always been neck and neck with them, benchmarking ourselves with them because they went into 1AA and 1A at the same time as we did.
But we always beat them. We always took
business. We can't lose the Buffalo. That's the step back. So these 2 games are important for just the overall morale and direction of the program. And I hope these kids know it. And one thing I kind of mentioned is we all played for each other. Dave gave me, I got to school, I met Dave. Dave kind of says, have a great time. This is the culture that he passed on. And the culture that we had was like, if you're walking on campus, a senior picked you up. We picked you up. You got in the car.
You guys
Dave always saw me walking, picking me up, driving me where I had to go. I had to go off campus. He'll pick me up. We all took care of each other. We played for each other. And then when we played for what was next to come. We played for the next tradition. And with the whole 60 new guys coming in and out, hey, play and love your school and love the time that you're there and see what's going on. You see that the baseball team made the college World Series. I think both the boys and girls might win the championship in basketball this season. Play for your school and not for yourself. And leave a mark in the school, because these next 2 weeks is going to redefine our decade. Be honest with you. This is big.
And I just wanted to say hi. We have the Jedi, Courtney Williams, is watching our podcast, and I'm honored that he is. He's one of my favorites. He does a lot to try to spread the word of all our podcasts. So we appreciate that he's commenting, and he says that our analysis is spot on. He says he wants to see us compete against Duke, and he wants Thunder Dan to be on the podcast. And I would tell Courtney, Thunder Dan's fee is like $75,000. So if we can raise that money, we'll get him on the podcast.
That might be Nick Evers' buyout if he playing the way he does. I'm a Pagano guy. I like Nick being a Northeastern guy from Maine. Let's go. Let's fly with that.
They said that he played last. Did he play last year? Was he the starter, or was it 2 years ago he was the starter?
We had so many starting quarterbacks in the past 5
because
years.
Baylock was telling me that he.
Yeah, I do remember him from last year. It was just, it's just been a muck of quarterbacks, and I think he played well. I just, I want a guy who's been on campus for a little bit while, who knows the players and that's kind of serviceable and can get the job done. And like I said, I just think everything was just a half a second quicker left this week.
Jamar, offensively, what kind of offense are they running? Are they running more like 11 personnel? Are they running 10 personnel and spreading it out and just running zone? Because I haven't had a chance to watch them. That's why
no, they're just one thing. I like us running the ball. I think the athletes that we have to get, we have to run the ball and match up, and and us going 5 wide with the linemen that we have isn't us. And it's the same thing with Diaco did. It's just like, oh man, don't do this to us. Let's just kind of run the ball.
Exactly.
But yeah, we're a little bit of a spread. We're a little bit of spread with motion. Nick Evers could have made some throws. Guys were open in Maryland.
That's what they said. They said he missed.
Guys were open. It shouldn't have been
through to Skylar Bell, because Skylar Bell played with him at Wisconsin.
Well, he's the guy that's been playing.
Skylar Bell's averaging 35 yards a catch.
Yeah, he's playing very well.
So he's played very well. But he actually was playing at Wisconsin. He wasn't a bad, he had 20 catches or something. He actually played a decent amount. So he should be able to be an impact player. I think what Jamar said too, which is really, really true about UConn, the players that are older, when the younger players come in, their goal for those younger players is that they would be better than their team was, right? Our goal was okay.
It was to make you better.
We were trying to hope that when you guys got to be seniors, you were, which you guys were a better program overall than when we were there, right? That was the goal. And I'm sure that was the goal when, Jamar became a senior for the next guys, and your goal as well. And I think that's the thing that I think Jamar's right. We have to get back to more of that, where we have to get back to more of, okay, where our group ends up, we want the next group to be much higher, that freshman group much higher than when we were, right? And that's where it really went from the Holtz to Edsel era very seamlessly, and you guys kept getting better and better, right? That's the thing that we lacked these last 10 years, and that I know more is working to do. And I think Jamar's right, open to players, even though there's a lot of transferring going on, and it's going to continue because that's just how it is. But that gets passed down, that we want you guys to continue to work to be better, not just for me personally to be better right now, but for the program as a whole.
It was Jamar's group, Jamar's senior class. God bless them, because they took care of us. I came in when Jamar was there. His group, him and Hessel, CJ Hessel, Durfus, Darby, those guys really, they took care of us and made sure that we knew what UConn football was all about. And they made us better. They made us tougher. They made us physical. I can tell right from the start, I was soft as hot butter when I came into UConn. And they molded me into steel by the time I left, because they didn't take it easy on you. They made you better every day at practice. They taught me how to practice. They taught me how to practice hard, that you can't just go out there and go through the motions. And that's what I think is so important. That group right there was the foundation and kind of set the tone of what UConn football was all about. And I think it lasted all the way through until, probably 2012. And that's when things started to change, and we're at where we're at now. And hopefully they can do and pick things up like Jamar said.
Yeah. And also too, it was funny because I'm watching, my kids had games this weekend. I ref football games this weekend.
Yeah.
I'm trying to catch up. And then the NIU Huskies,
I know,
go into South Bend, and they won. They beat Notre Dame
16-14.
And then it was and they're the Huskies, and I'm like, oh man. And I thought 15 years ago, UConn.
That was the biggest win. Yeah,
the little school that went into South Bend, and we beat Notre Dame.
Double overtime. Yep.
Yeah,
One of the greatest games ever.
Just like the coach was crying, I was crying, because it was the same year that Jasper
Howard. Yep.
And they played for him, and it was just kind of that was our story. And then
it was.
then 12 years later, 15 years later, it's, here we are trying to find a home. And it's important to kind of carry on that tradition to next. That's where we were. We were beating Notre Dame 15 years ago. And here we are now trying to kind of reestablish ourselves and find ourselves, because it's important for those people to kind of carry on that tradition. And, it's hard, and, I remember one time, I got challenged, when I was a younger kid. And I remember one time I had to challenge Uwe. I had to fight Uwe one day because I just knew I had to. And he was a kickoff team, and I was a starter, and I'm on the kickoff team. I'm running hard, and he wasn't. And I'm like, I'm the middle linebacker on this team, and I'm on the second team kickoff team for some fucking weird reason. And he was just loafing it. And I'm like, yo. And then he cursed at me. And I'm like, oh, I knew it. I had to do something. I fucking whacked Uwe. He whacked me back. I whacked him again. He possibly threw me, but I knew how to catch myself. And you know what Uwe did the next day? He went down and then that same first kickoff in that game that week, he made 2 kickoff team tackles.
Yeah.
And that was what I had to kind of do. And I didn't want to do it, but I knew how to do it. And Uwe became one of the best defensive players ever, because it was just something you had to kind of go out and do it. And that was just a comfort level. It was just, hey, as a leader, I got to do this right now and sacrifice the team and punch this young kid in the face so everybody knows that I'm just trying to make you better. And it worked out. I'm sure he did that to the next batch of kids, to the kids that won, the Motor City Bowl and the other bowl, because that's just kind of what needed to be done. So hopefully we'll kind of get back to that. This is a big 2 weeks of Uconn football, and I hope we're going to fight. And these are the games that you got blown out and you blew a team out. And the last, that middle of the third quarter is going to decide who you are. Are we going to fight out of this to win this game? Or are we going to get a strong lead? Are we going to make plays? Are we going to rally together? And I'm happy that it's on the road so they can kind of find themselves and kind of rally. And then the schedule gets a little bit easier in October, November. You have a bunch of home games in a row. So, I'm excited for Saturday to see what our boys put together. And Duke Uconn, that means
They
something.
They played last year too. They've played a few times. Jamar, were they primarily running out of the shotgun? Were they all shotgun? Did they have a tight end on the field at times?
I saw a few times. Maybe hardly.
Okay.
I don't know if you don't have a tight end, if you don't have a skilled one, but no, it was mostly wide. And then we kind of went a little ground and pound in the goal line.
Did they did have 2 backs?
Yeah.
Like
we did the push. We did the tush push. We did that. That worked out. Yeah, we did the tush push. It's like I said, it looked cohesive. It looked professional. It looked smooth.
They executed good.
Yes. Yeah.
And they did allow you on the sidelines?
No, I watched it. I had to buy some ESPN Plus. It was on CT. And Dave Kaplan was the executive producer and his son. So this was on CT TV Channel 3. So they had the coverage for it.
I gotta find it. Whenever I can't find it, I'm just gonna text you, because I was trying to find it all day. I was watching the play-by-play and the box score, and it was just so good to see. That's why I'm asking how they're operating offensively, because I told Dave this. I think the Randy Edsel model of winning still works, because you have to take advantage of Rentschler Field or Pratt Whitney Stadium, whatever it's called now. You're going to be outdoors. You're going to be on grass. October, November comes. It's cold. It's windy.
Yeah.
It's tough to throw the ball. Randy always ran the ball. Tough defense. Played field position. And we're not going to turn it over. And tough defense.
I think. So, I think, having that West Coast offense of flying around looks great in September, but in October, it's raining and it's disgusting, it's gross and slow.
Can we
adjust and take advantage of that, and you got to run the ball? I love Victor Sosa. I think he's one of the culture carriers that we really, really need, and we have other good running backs, but, I hope that we can get to a point where we got 2 running backs rushing for, 800 yards each or 1,000 yards each. and getting back to that game. But both running backs look good, look strong.
Okay. Victor Rosa. Okay. So you think he's one of the guys too? Because I
just
like
He only got 3
Edwards.
carries in the game, Victor Rosa, I think, or something.
Yeah, but he's been on the team for 3 years. I think the year that we made the bowl game, he was kind of our feature back. So I don't know what's going on, and we've been really kind of carrying him a little bit, but he had a nice touchdown run for sure that got me excited.
Yeah, he had a 30-yard touchdown run, and Cam Edwards only had 6 carries for 15 yards. That's why I talked to Andy Baylock today, Coach Baylock. He said that they primarily played the backups. So I don't know if Darrell Robinson or Mel Brown are going to get a lot of carries or a lot of work against Duke, or if it'll go back to Cam Edwards and Victor Rosa. And even the quarterback, Joe, had 5 carries for 38 yards. So, I mean, they at least ran with him a little bit. And they played the quarterback, Cole Welliver, the 6'7" kid from Montana.
I saw he had 4 passes or something, yeah.
He was 2 for 4 for 10 yards. He got in there, and then they played Tucker McDonald. So they got 3 quarterbacks in. And, holding Merrimack to 155 yards passing, I thought was excellent. And, they ran the ball 39 times for 124 yards. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good defensively. So if that can carry over at least some of it, I think we definitely can be competitive. It's just going to depend on, we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback, if they're going to go with Evers or stick with Joe. And I agree with Jamar and you. I think you got to stick with Joe.
And this is the second time in 3 years that we get a quarterback transfer that winds up getting hurt. So we had the kid from DePaul 2 years ago. What was that? Huh?
Roberson.
He played great against that Utah State game that we could have won. We went out there. He got a concussion after his first game, I think in the second quarter, and then we wound up losing that close game. So yeah, this is kind of a trend that the quarterback blues kind of always kicks around in that first week.
Well, if they get him established, if they say, this is our guy, end it right now, and go with him. If they believe in him, if he's the one that's, he's been there longer, if he has the leadership capability, he can execute the offense. Obviously, he's shown he facilitated. If you look at the statistics, no receiver had more than like 2 catches. I mean, he threw the ball to everyone, and he ran the ball, and he ran the offense. So I think that's more important than ever. And he threw 5 touchdowns, and they, like I said, they broke our record.
You have nothing to lose because you already started the other guy, right? So now if this guy's rolling, you play him. If for some reason he really struggles, you bring him back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you could actually bring him back slowly versus accelerating this process with him.
Yeah.
What this guy can do. You have nothing to lose. You could always go back if he really struggles or is not the guy. And this is a great game to see it. It's Duke. You know what I mean? So now you saw the other guy in his first game. Now you get to see Pagano in this kind of a game. You see how he does.
Better competition.
Does well, you'll know the answer.
Right.
If he does great, you'll know the answer. If he doesn't do well, then you could be like, okay, we could kind of move on from that chapter, right? So we could move on from that kind of like who's the better guy. So I think there's nothing to lose by going Pagano.
He is he is a senior. He is a senior too. So I mean,
now what year is the senior? I like seniors who are 22, 23.
Yeah, he played. Yeah, he's a 5th-year senior. So he's been on the team since 2019, and his best year, I guess, was 2022. He started and he threw 15 touchdown passes to 6 interceptions. The last 2 years he's played The last year he played sparingly. He must have played like one game. And he was 18 of 35, and he only threw for 173 yards. But that must be why he was voted comeback player of the year. He must have got hurt, and that's why they brought in Evers. And now, they had whatever happened in spring ball, they went with Evers, and now Fagano got his chance, or however you say his last name, got his chance to shine, and he absolutely did. And I agree, I have to agree with both of you. The guy's a fifth-year senior. I think you roll the dice and you go with him. Something happens, just go back to Evers. I know you're paying Evers. You're probably not even paying Joe. So I go with him.
If you are giving them, they're not giving them very much. If they are giving them something,
yeah. I mean, I don't
probably
think
give all the players something now. I'm assuming.
Well,
but
no, I don't think so.
no.
No, according to what Mike said, this is the first year that they had money. I don't think they had money last year or the year before. I think this year was the first year of the Bleeding Blue for Good collective. It's bleedingblueforgood.org, where you can go and donate to any sport. That's the one that Mike Burton runs. That's the one that has been doing all the work. And, he raised $1 million, I think 1.5. I think he raised it, but he only raised it through 10 people. So that's why he's trying to get more. And that's, we talked about, he just wants smaller donations. And I told him that we'd help him with that. He calls people and he asks for $200. If they can give him $200, he said he'd be thrilled, because we have such a huge alumni base. If everyone gives something, then they can get, his goal for next year is like $3 million. And that'll make a difference, and that'll make us competitive, because you have to understand it's basketball too. I mean, they use the money for everyone. So each sport gets NIL money through Bleeding Blue for Good. It's not just football, which I think was good that Mike did. And I think there's Jamar. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's another collective as well. I think Tommy told me about Sam Dorville may run it. I'm not sure the name of it, but we have 2 or 3, don't we?
Yeah, the D'Amelios have.
D'Amelio has one. I think Sam Dorville. That's like an investment group for, like a little separate thing with them, kind of pulling their money for just some urban development.
D'Amelio has Cam Edwards is supported by D'Amelio. Gordine is supported by D'Amelio.
Oh, okay.
Danny Antolovich is supported. I'm just on their thing. Jelani Stafford, Julian Simon are supported by D'Amelio. Jackson Harper.
Now, is this like D'Amelio? Like he's connected. So D'Amelio has a cool story. He's the old Huskies DJ. He did. So D'Amelio's cool. He has the daughters, who are TikTok stars. He's one of those Uconn guys that really, really hustled and made it big. So he was part of Mitchell and Ness, that company. And then when it sold, he made a bunch of money, moved out to LA. He was with Mitchell and Ness.
Okay.
So Mitchell and Ness made it big, like late 90s, 2000s with the throwbacks. He was part of that. And then I think I'm sure he's connected. He's probably connected to, an agency. So whether CAA out in LA or Wasserman or maybe one of those. Right. So he's feeding players to them.
Wow.
So so there's probably I'm probably misquoting it, or I'm allegedly. But just knowing how that agency world works, with my brother being there's always some type of connection of someone behind the scenes, and he's doing a great job getting the brand out. I love what he did with the basketball sting, and he's really kind of, jumping in and trying to help the football program a lot. But you know how it is with football. It's kind of like, hey, I'm helping the football team, but I'm not 85% into hoops. But
so he primarily does basketball.
But he's doing
he does all the sports.
He does all the sports. He does all the like he's doing his best, but basketball's the headliner, that.
Sure.
And and also too, it's like, Paige Becker's just killing it. Like she's killing it.
Well,
Well, I don't
And
think she's
she's
even
doing
part
it.
of any collective. I think she
No,
just has
she
her
does
own.
it on her own.
she has her own thing, and she's killing it. So, and it's weird because it's like we didn't, the basketball players did well when we were there, but there's a whole bunch of money going around. Like, and everyone, when I think of Colorado, I love Dion to death, but you know how much money, kids having automobile baguettes,
Well,
watching and stuff in a college locker room. That doesn't work, man. I remember when kids got
I
Pell
agree.
Grants, 2,500, they were rich,
I
and
know.
25, give me 2,500 for a semester, I can live off that. And obviously, economics are different. Economy is different from now from when we went to school 25 years ago. But all that money going in that locker room, it does.
No, I
stick to
agree.
people, and it does a lot of weird things to 18 to 22-year-old kids.
And Dave and I have talked about this, Jamar. I agree because there's kids getting $10 million, $14 million per year. And that's why this year, the NFL, the least amount of juniors declared for the NFL draft because they wanted to stay in college.
But also, too, it's like the whole Conor McGregor quote. It's hard to wake up hungry sleeping
No,
on
it is.
satin
It is.
sheets. The hunger dies,
It does.
You
It
know what's
does.
going to make you run those Memorial Stadium hills? When you
Yeah.
got $17 in your bank account, you got to get home.
Yeah. No,
You
I
can't
get
even
it.
take out $20 from the ATM. You're on those steps because you can't go to nickel night. You're running these steps behind me. That's how you're making up for it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
That type of hunger, it goes in. But we're still the program that's turning out pros. We're still the program that's doing a lot of different things. We're still a first-class program where we treat our athletes very well. And I'm excited for these next 2 weeks, because we have to beat Temple. We have to beat Temple. That's another program that we're neck and neck with that we have to beat on the 5th. We got time off to get ready for Wake Forest. We should beat Rice again because that was a great win last year. And they're coming to us hopefully October 26th. It is disgusting and it's cold, and those Texas kids aren't ready for it. Georgia State might be sneaky because they always have some really, really good athletes. UAB is another program that left and came back, and they're rebuilding. So the blood's in the water on this roster, on the schedule that we have, and we got to take advantage of 3 out of 5 of them.
Do you think like in my opinion with the NIL stuff, like I just think it's gotten, like Dave said, the wild, wild west. It's really out of control. Do you think there should be some sort of regulation, like a salary cap? Per team?
You know what's going to happen when that happens, Steven? When something happens like to Pata at the University of Miami, when something really bad happens to a player, and we say we have to control this.
Yeah,
you're
right. Yeah, you're right.
Because something's going to happen. Like even Travis Hunter, he has this beautiful house in Colorado, the mansion, and I'm like, this ain't cool.
That's why I said like
cool. My dream house was like to live off campus and have like a SAE house with just football players, and we all chipped in, and we had a $2,000 mortgage that we kept up, and that was living there. And then say you have a party you have a party with your friends coming over, and they invite some friends. That house is getting robbed, and things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen because there's too much.
You're right. You're right about that.
Once something bad happens to the right player,
you think that's when there'll be some change.
We have a problem. But the problem is that the SEC and the Big Ten, 2 power brokers doing their own thing, and these small little conferences are kind of doing their own thing.
Group of 5, yep.
And I just hope their players, the players are taking care of themselves and they're smart with their money. And I know the government's coming. You got
to pay
on this stuff. You got to pay taxes on this.
They're not going to know that.
That's going to be interesting. So
you're right.
I just hope that it needs to be contained because it's getting out of control. Even like the whole Arkansas thing with Calipari going to Arkansas, and the Walmart people's like, you can do whatever you want. You're going to offer a college kid, an 18-year-old kid, whatever he wants. And whatever his family wants.
Well, Dave, we talked about the kid from Florida who was promised $14 million a year, and he ended up transferring to Arizona State.
Yep.
and now he's suing Florida because he didn't get the NIL money, the NIL deal that they supposedly promised him.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they shouldn't
beginning.
they should regulate it.
We
Put
should
like
have
$2 million
one-
a year.
in my head, I have this thing called social media goes wrong, right? When kids do stupid things on social media, like the player from Florida giving giving the finger.
Yeah.
I think there should be a social media class, right? I remember Skip used to do this. Skip used to have a blog where other college players used to get in trouble, and he would highlight what they did.
Oh,
So
he
would do the
did
same
really?
thing. Yeah, and we still did similar things.
I know. But you guys are
So,
bad.
but like social media goes wrong, you should have a feature when NIL goes wrong. When
Yes.
just certain things happen that just really, really
didn't
go
even think about that.
aloof.
I didn't even think about that. You're absolutely right. With all that money involved, you're right. Someone has a party, they're getting robbed. Like, people are going to go through their shit and take stuff. I didn't even think about that, because I mean, it's crazy.
I think guys like Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders are not even hanging. This is the bigger issue with it. They're not even hanging out with any of the players on the team. They're completely disconnected. Other than the elite players who are also making money. That's the thing that's going on. They're completely disconnected.
They do their own thing.
Yeah, because listen, if you're making the amount of money that Shedeur and Travis Hunter are making, you also have security at that point. You also have your home under security at that point. You're not just inviting all the players over to hang out. I think that's gone among the elite players. Like, now you might have some places that have a better culture that you can do some of that, right? But I think that you're not. Let's put it like this: the walk-on, who's like,
there's not going to be any walk-ons anymore.
Yeah, they're not hanging out with the walk-on. They're not like that's not before. Everybody was part of kind of one team. There's two teams. They're the team. The
haves and the have-nots.
There's that exactly. The have and the have-nots. And now the bigger programs are like, we go to SEC or Big Ten. They're all getting something, right?
Correct.
So they all have more, but you still have your quarterbacks, for example, at those schools. I mean, is Arch Manning having a party where everybody from the team is coming over? Hell no.
Yeah,
no. Is the quarterback that's ahead of him, Quinn Ewers, who's possibly the first pick in the draft, is already making multi-millions. Now they could be great guys. It doesn't mean they're not great guys.
No,
they're going to have advisors that are not going to allow them to take those kind of risks. It has nothing to do with whether they're good guys or not. It has zero to do with that. So there's going to be, unless, look, elite quarterbacks know how to get connected to their players. Okay. So even if they're not hanging out with them the way that maybe we would have in college, they know how to do that. That's why they're guys that are elite, but not everybody. I don't think in Colorado, just listening to Shedeur's comments after the game and about his comments on the O-line, like, I don't even know if he knows who all his O-linemen are.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He doesn't hold back when he talks.
And I'm saying that facetiously. I know he knows who they are, but my point is that he's not hanging out with them the same way that players years ago would have. He's going to hang out with Travis. He's going to hang out with Joe Horn, and that's about his brother. That's about it, right? And he probably feels like he can't afford to, even if he wanted to, he can't afford to do that. That creates a disconnect. Now, other places, that might be slightly different because maybe they're all getting a certain amount of money.
Yeah, they don't have that problem, right?
Maybe a quarterback that has the mindset of, hey, I got to connect with at least my offense, or maybe they're doing things there, right? But it's much more difficult, much more difficult, because you have an agent. If you and I'm just using the Texas guys because those two are going to be both first-round draft picks and probably widely considered to be the best in their class. Those guys, they're going to have agents that are going to be like, I want to have some guys over, or they're going to be they're going to
Like,
be
hell
controlling
no.
that. They're
Yeah.
going to control that because they don't want what you talked about, like someone going in that don't really know on the team, ain't getting nothing, walk on. I'm not picking on walk-ons, but I'm just saying, like, someone who really is getting nothing, right, comes in there and is a little bit
That's
jealous.
jealous, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's just natural. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying anything negative about the walk-on. I'm saying it's natural. If one guy's here and you're on the same team, one
Yeah.
guy's here. When you're in the NFL, it's different. It's
It's
the
business.
pro. We
Yes.
all know that Tom Brady or Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, those guys are going to get a certain amount. But we're all millionaires, basically, other than the guys that are the bottom of the roster, right?
They buy their offensive lineman Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I think, I got to jump off because I have to go, get
Jamar, are you going to any home games?
I got to figure it out because I'm
Because
I'm
you
refing
coach and
game.
ref.
Yeah, coaching. I don't coach. I ref. That's another conversation for another day. Dave, thank you for the kind words with Ed Suri. That was really, really nice to pump up my kids like that.
I told him he's got 2 studs there. He's got 2 studs.
Yeah. So we'll get there. I'm going through an interesting time with being on the B team for my team, and they're not letting me coach here. So I'm like, okay.
I didn't know that.
Well, they don't let dads coach.
Yeah. I'm not a townie, if I wanted to coach in North Bergen, absolutely, I can run the program. But now I'm in the town. It's like, well, that's another discussion for the day. But just going to go back to our conversation.
I'll have a discussion with you offline at a further time about something else that.
Yeah. All right. Now, also too, in closing, Uconn culture compared to culture now. So I'm in campus. Phil Hunt's a Jersey guy. I get my locker, and I'm like, okay, I need to go buy. Oh, I forgot my lock. Phil said this to me. What do you need a lock for? I gotta lock my stuff up.
You told me
He
that.
says,
yeah.
You don't need a lock here. No one's taking your stuff. Welcome to Uconn. We're a family. Who's your friend? Teammate. I'm like, all right, cool. So I told that to other guys.
Yes, you did.
And there was a little sticky hand situation I addressed one time, and that's what Uconn family was like. We weren't. You didn't have anything to take from any of us. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have beepers. And you knew what to bring to locker room, what not to bring to locker room. But nowadays, if you're in Colorado and you're getting all this money, you're wearing your watch that you shouldn't be wearing. You're just gonna wear it.
You're wearing your gold.
It's going to be in your locker.
Yeah.
You had to lock that stuff up.
Right.
You got to protect your stuff, and you're having a press conference and you're iced out. That's just, it's not the look.
You're right.
Where one guy's living off company issued gear and you're dressed out in your Louis Vuitton, and Dion says, I'm coming with Louis Vuitton bags. That's not the image to have. You got to be, So
You're
those
right.
are different the ways to look at it, where the culture is really, really different on just, money does a lot to people, and money does a lot to a lot of young kids. And we all played football to help our family out. So our mom didn't have to pay, or mom and dads didn't have to pay for college, and we're lucky to be there. And I worked my butt off at the North Bergen pool and delivered pizzas just so I have a little walking around money to kind of get around. And now they're just asking the coaches for money, and hey, I was a barber. I cut hair. That's how
I know you were great at it too.
That's how I made my money, and I survived. And it made me.
And you uniquely understand that because of
Jamar
the
did
NBA,
that. You're a
right?
great job.
Because your brother, right? So you uniquely understand how that can be, because he was young, obviously, when he went to the NBA.
Yeah.
You uniquely understand how that world can be crazy. Now you're bringing that world to college.
Yeah. Like the funny part was, like, my brother, right? My brother's in the NBA. Like, oh, hey, if you tell me I changed because I'm in the NBA, hell yeah, I changed. I'm rich. You're rich. And it's true. He's like, yeah, I changed. I'm rich. I'm not the same kid anymore. I'm different, but my heart's there. And when Kyle played in the D League, because he got to the Spurs team in a championship, and the kids would go and eat McDonald's. And after a big win, he would go and take these kids to a nice restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, look, you got guys, don't, I know you're not making, let's go to the next restaurant. We had a nice win. Let's just, he did that for the guys that were going.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the guys on that team did make it to the league.
Yeah.
And they always bought Kyle dinner just because
they remembered
that one time. Deadman, a few guys had some really good careers. Kyle, where are we going out? They weren't even on the Spurs anymore. I'm taking Kyle out because he took us out for dinner when we're in the league.
Yeah,
so
they remember that.
So even when you're recruiting certain kids, you have to look at their character and read through that and what they're all about. Because it's, one thing that, when we recruit at Uconn, we recruited character, because you had to bring the right people in the locker room. So this whole NIL thing is really, really messy. And it's really choppy. And I just think that, Uconn, I think we are a very clean cut, honest, first class program. And I even me and Steve talked about this last time. Like when people say, "Oh, your scholarship's only guaranteed 1 year," if you were at Uconn, you got hurt, they kept you on scholarship. They took care of you.
Yeah, they kept you on a medical.
There's some still things that we have in place that not many schools have that really, really take care of each other. And it's really, really fun to listen to other people's stories, Steve, that you're doing. But just in close, I just wanted to share that story with Phil Hunt and the culture that we have, and I just hope the NIL and the money just doesn't muddy the waters for what we have at Uconn when it comes to who's your friend, teammate, the trust. And the best thing about watching the highlights of the game and some of the game at the end is the kids are still singing the fight song. And that's important, that they can sing the fight song, and the 68 kids can learn the fight song. And just hopefully when, like I said, it's called the blood in the water schedule, where you have opportunities to beat some teams. I just hope we get most of those games. And I think the next actually let's add Temple into that. These are big games that we need to win, because these are all upcoming programs that we have to benchmark ourselves to make that step forward and getting back to where we hope to be.
And Dave, I told you Jamar would be great to have on, and he was. Jamar, thank you so much.
Jamar,
You nailed it. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys.
All right,
let me get back to work, and I gotta go make a sales call and ref a football game, and then watch my kids play and watch my Jets. I got a good afternoon, so thank you for starting it off. Really, really nice with having me on to talk about our 63-17 win against the mighty Merrimack.
Mighty Merrimack. I love you, Jamar.
All right,
sure.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, bye.
He's the man, isn't he?
No, yes, fantastic. Yeah.
I love the way he thinks, and he's right. I mean, they took care of us when we came in. When they were upperclassmen, when they were juniors and seniors, they really took care of the freshmen. Whereas, before, I mean, there was hazing and different things done. They went out of their way to really teach us the culture at Uconn, and taught us to pick each other up, not hold people down. And that resonated with everyone, and it went a long way. I tell you, that kept me at Uconn. I remember after the first or second day of practice, I called home. I called home, and I told my dad. I said, Dad, I don't think I can do this. I can't do this. And shockingly, he said, if you want to come home, you can come home. We'll call SUNY Albany. We'll put you there. Colgate, something like that. If you want to come home, you can do that. And then afterwards, I had a talk with a couple of the other freshmen and a couple of the veterans, and they kept me there. And I stuck it out, and I grew to love it. And if it wasn't for them, I may have left. I may have gone home and gone to Albany.
I think that's the thing that,
and that's powerful.
When I came in, I thought the seniors did that with me, even under the TJ era. We tried to do that with the freshmen, which was the jump brothers, jump cousins,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that whole
Brunello.
that whole group. I think was Darby. Darby was Shane's group, or no? Darby
Yeah.
was that group. Darby was that group. So
Yeah.
Jamar and all those guys, So
So you
uh,
were a senior when they came in,
so
or
Joe
in grad
the
school?
jumps the jump cousins were, I think,
Colin and yeah.
Hoffman,
Yep.
and I believe they were all freshmen when I was a fifth-year senior.
Okay, so Jamar would have been in that group. Okay,
Okay, so Jamar was
you're right.
I'm trying to think. Was Jamar? Well, no, Jamar, I think, is the grade behind.
Were
Uh,
you 96 or 97?
my last year of playing was 96. I
Okay.
graduated in 96, but my last year playing was fall of 96. And then
Okay.
because I was a fifth-year senior,
And
right?
he came in 97 then. So
Okay, so I was I got my
you
MBA
were
at
in grad
UConn,
school.
so I
Yeah.
was there in grad school. So my 6th year there in grad school, Shane was still my roommate.
Right.
Um, and Jamar would come by, you know what I mean? Like I
So
would,
you knew him.
I knew him. Yeah, I knew him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would see him all the time. And that year also,
And your
my
Jersey guys too.
yes, which was why especially where he's from. He's from North Bergen. I'm from Saddlebrook. It's like 15 minutes from each. So, but but his crew. So when I was a sixth year, my 6th year in grad school, in the fall and the spring, I believe I worked for Kyle Muncy.
Oh,
So
you
I,
worked in the
so I
SID?
was around the program. Yeah. So
Oh,
I
that's
was
why. I got you.
my job was I'm thinking back now. I was in the booth, and
Yeah.
I was basically like I worked for Kyle. I
Spotting
did
or
the post game stuff, the pre game stuff. I was in the booth spotting to make so they knew who was like I don't know, making tackles and
yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of I don't and then I would go get all the players and when they and the coaches for the other team, and I have to go get them, bring them in. And then I don't remember what I did. I did something in the spring. I don't remember exactly, but I remember the fall. So I knew who a lot of those freshmen were because I was there in the locker room after the game and before the game. That kind of
Oh,
stuff.
so that's why you're so cool with Kyle. Now I get it. You worked for him.
Yeah, I work for him. I
That's
work for him.
hilarious.
Man,
Now
he
that
was the
makes
he was the greatest boss, dude. He'd be like, "How many hours did you work last week?" I'm like, "Ah." He's like, he was great. So, but yeah,
that's
no, he was great. And, like and in the sports information department, that was like I basically did that stuff for him in football. Like
yeah, all the
mostly needed me like the game weekends and like I
yeah.
can't like I don't think I ever traveled. I think I did all the
No,
home
you did the
games.
home games. You were a
Yeah.
spotter. You would spot, so
I
they
would
would know the
spot for them.
game
I would
and
do the post game
probably the
conferences, get the
stats.
players,
Yeah, you would
like
grab
kind of
everyone.
like you know, I was his lackey, and I would get all the
That's
guys for
hilarious.
him, because I knew the guys, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, you knew him anyway.
I knew him anyway. He's like, "Can you go get me so and so, so and so, so and so? Tell them or send so and so in." Actually, it was a good experience. You'd sit there, you'd be like, because even though players are want to be interviewed after the game, sometimes they're nervous. I didn't realize that, but like
Oh yeah, they don't like it. Yeah, a lot of them.
some guys were great with it. Some guys never didn't
Yeah,
bother at all. Some guys like they'd be sitting there waiting, like while the other player was in there or something, or coach was in there, and they'd be like, "What are they going to ask?" They'd be like,
yeah.
"I'm
I don't
like,
want to go out there.
what are you gonna?" I'd be like, "Listen, don't worry. It's just going to be like, how did you play? Like, what did you see?"
Harper Current. Yeah,
Yeah. It's really good. It's going to be like basic questions.
you're not
Just
gonna.
talk
Yeah.
about, you know. But I remember that. So that's I work. That's why I know. Yeah, that's why Kyle knows me, right? So,
That's hilarious.
yeah. I always used to tease him. I'm like, you guys never came and grabbed me for the press conferences when I played.
That's exactly what I would do when when I would be in the locker room after the game, Kyle would be running around trying to find the guys for the interviews. I'd yell out his name, say, Kyle. And he'd turn around and he'd look. He's like, what do you need? I go, you need me? You need me for an interview? And he'd be like, yes, fuck you. Because he knew I was messing with him.
You can leave now. Go ahead.
I was like, do you need me? I'm here. I'm ready. He's like, no. Nobody wants to.
I was like, I think I had 8 tackles this game. You need me this week?
That's what I would do it for.
No, we don't need you.
He said no.
Did you have a pick? No, I didn't have a pick. All right.
And then it was so funny. And then we would do it at the basketball games because our roommate Mike Woodward was a basketball player.
Okay.
We'd go to all the basketball games, and after the game, we'd wait for Woody, and he'd be running around. I'd say, Kyle, and he'd turn and he'd look. And I'd say, hey, you need me? You need me for an interview? Just like, what is wrong with you guys? Just leave me alone. Let me do my job.
I need Shane Stafford. I need Hilliard. I need
Steve Cully. Steve Cully. We don't need him yet. We'll be just fine.
I was blocking for Will at fullback when he scored the 5 touchdowns that day. Do you need me? No, we need Will. He scored the 5. He's the one that scored the 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hilarious.
I guess you don't need me.
No.
But that's okay. Now we get our fix in the meeting. Now we request the people, right?
No,
so
yeah. Now we'll just hope the SID responds. We'll get the SID to respond to us. Kyle, I told Kyle that, and he actually was kind of mad. He said, I told Kyle, I was like, Kyle, the SID didn't even respond to me. And he said, just ask him again. I'll make sure that he responds to you. So I'm supposed to reach out to him again. It's a different guy that I've never heard of. So that's why. The guy that used to be there was awesome. So it's a new guy. Okay. But so I'm sure he's like, what the hell's Husky Huddle? Like they want on this podcast. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, the views it's drawing are pretty high. So
no, I know. That's what I said. I said we're creating content. We're giving you exposure. You want engagement. This is it. And that's why it's making a difference. If you want, I put it out there. The best coverage of Uconn football is on Husky Huddle. You got the best tag team. You and I, Dave and Cully we're the tag team. And then we bring on the best guests. We brought on the GOAT. Although Matt DiGennaro I don't know if he would do with that. He was also a GOAT.
Yes.
Did he play before?
I can get you Matt DiGennaro. Did you have Matt DiGennaro on?
No, I want him.
You want Matt DiGennaro?
Do you know him?
His son played on my club team for 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I do. If you give me Matt DiGennaro.
I know Matt well. Let me see what I could
I want him because I had never heard of him, and then I just happened to look up the statistics. Awesome. I looked up the statistics. All the passing statistics are Orlovsky is 1, DiGennaro is 2, and Pup is 3. Shane's 3rd on everything. So, like Matt DiGennaro, he threw 20 plus touchdown passes. I think all 4 years he played. Like
Matt DiGennaro played.
I never heard of him.
Before me, he's a couple of years before I was there.
Okay.
But there are guys that I played with. So my true freshman year, okay. There was a guy named Alex Davis. He's probably one of the top guys all time receiver wise, who was a senior on when I was a freshman, and he played with Matt DiGennaro, and so did Brian Kozlowski, who played in the NFL.
Oh, Koz did too? Okay.
Koz was a senior when I was a freshman. I probably have Koz. I mean, I used to have Koz. I used to talk to Koz. I don't know if I have his number. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I used to have. Let me see.
Oh, okay.
I do have Brian. I don't know if this is still is. I haven't talked to Koz in a while, but I have Koz's number. But I'll get that to you too, so you can get Koz on the show. Get Koz and Matt, man. So Koz played with Matt. I haven't talked to Al. I don't know what Alex Davis, I can't remember what he does for a living. I haven't talked to him, but he was really like the superstar when I was a freshman. Kaz was a superstar. Obviously, went to the pros when I was a freshman.
Right.
Belcourt was the captain. The guy I gave Belcourt was captain with Kaz, I believe, on that team.
Oh, okay.
They were when I was a freshman. Belcourt was, I don't know if he has records, but he's probably up there as a defensive end.
So that they had some dudes then. That's that
did.
squad. Okay.
So the TJ era was the Tom Jackson era was very successful.
That's what I heard.
But there was ups and downs.
Yeah.
So what it was he was a for FCS phenomenal recruiter.
Right.
Like,
that's what I heard.
Like when I was a redshirt freshman and I was a fullback with Ed Nook, our line was enormous. I mean, I could get you all those guys. I mean, so if you want, but our line, like Sherrard Joseph, was a superstar for us lineman. He was 6'7", probably 315, and could run like a 5'140. He was a 5'040. He was a stud lineman. And then we averaged like 315 on the line. We were huge.
Were you there for when that offensive lineman was there? Was it Kloss?
Mark Kloss, yeah, sure.
Kloss? He wasn't he? They said he was a force.
He was absolutely
really special, right?
Yep. Tavar was 6'6", 315, could do a backflip.
Do you know him?
Yeah. Let me see if I have Tavar's. I'd love
to get him on too.
You know who definitely has his? I don't know if I have Tavar's contact. Oh, I do have Tavar. No, I don't. But if you want to talk to Tavar,
well, I'm sure I can find him.
Wilbur.
Okay.
Wilbur will have it definitely.
Okay.
Even though I think he's probably a freshman, true freshman. Wilbur's a senior, but Wilbur should have it, and then. Or Phil might even have it, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Tavar is a couple of years. I mean, he started from the time he was a freshman. But
yeah, he was a beast, I heard.
Because when I was a redshirt senior, he was a starter, but he might have only been a true sophomore that year. Or maybe he was a freshman. He might have been a freshman. I don't know. I mean, he started my senior year, my last year playing, but he might have been only a freshman. He was young. He was definitely young. But he was phenomenal.
I heard he was a great athlete.
Great athlete.
And he was a 4-year starter, and
definitely.
So I got to get him.
Spring ball. Tavar Kloss broke my my hand.
He did?
Yeah. So he was. So he must have been a sophomore when I was a redshirt senior. So I'm rushing off the edge, and I used to always get him with this one move, and I got him with it. And he, to compensate, as I was going by, he reached in, you're a lineman, grabbed anything, right? And he happened to grab two fingers,
yeah,
and got hold of it, and just yanked it. And when he yanked it, it caused like a fracture through here. I played all spring ball with it.
A stress fracture, yeah.
But it caused like a fracture all the way through. I'm like, good golly, you just ripped at my hand and you broke the top of my hand. But yeah, he was a really good athlete for a lineman. I mean, really, really good athlete.
Because I know he went to the league. He was with I thought he was with the Chiefs. I can't remember if he was on the practice squad or if he played or whatever.
I don't think it worked out. I don't know.
I know it didn't work out. But
or maybe if he wasn't drafted,
he wasn't drafted.
He signed one of the biggest signing bonuses in that class.
That's what I recall.
That's what it was. But yeah, I don't know what happened there. I really don't know. But like Taj played a million years. So the TJ era is like one of those eras. So the players all got along great. We all got along great. TJ was I think a master recruiter. He had but it was like a little bit like Wild West-ish. You know what I'm saying?
I heard. Yeah, you guys were
like you could be.
bad. You guys were tough. badasses.
Yeah, and I mean, guys got in fights, and
Yeah,
I mean,
I
like,
heard.
it wasn't just fights in practice, which we definitely had plenty of those. Like I hear Jamar talk about it, I'm like, well, that's true. That's under the to set the tone. We had fights just because they were straight up fights in practice. Like
Yeah. And
I
they
don't,
let him go. They let you go.
we used to, the coaches used to let him go
Yeah, all the time.
until one guy dominated another, or it looked like someone was going to get hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it
Right.
looked like someone was getting hurt, they jumped in. But like
Yeah.
you'd see it going on for. I've gotten a couple myself. You'd be going for 15 seconds, and you're like, I guess no one's going to get in. I'll just keep fighting.
Yeah.
Like
No, I always did too. Yeah.
I'll just keep fighting.
Yeah.
Keep fighting.
I always did too. I had so many fights, and then I realized how stupid it was because all it did was tire me out,
Tired
and
you out.
my team would still. It would be during team, and we'd still have to run the plays, and I would just be gassed. So I just got in a fight, wore myself out, and I still got to run 40,000 plays. So after that, I learned not. And then I learned not to fight. And then when we had Tyler King on, I was Tyler was on scout team when I was a freshman or sophomore, and I was going against him. I had a broken wrist. I had a cast, a club on my hand. It was casted up and clubbed. Tyler is pass rushing like it's Super Bowl 31. And I got so mad at him, I threw him down on the ground and I started whacking him in the head with my club, with my broken hand. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I have a broken wrist. And he just wouldn't. That's how he was. He just was a high motor guy. He wouldn't take it easy. Yeah, he wouldn't take it easy on me. And we talk about that all the time. How I fought him. I tried to fight him with a broken wrist, and I'm hitting him with my club.
That's so funny. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
It's you kind of has themes among its players like that go all the way through. So the more I think Jamar hit that stuff on the head. Like the more, no matter what we pay our players, the more that those guys are in line with what
the culture,
culture, the program, because you're there's no way you're not going to get around it in this era. If you want to win, that is, you're not going to be able to get around it. But it's but you want guys that culturally fit, right? And the Texas thing comes to mind because Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning are really good fits for Texas. It seems like, right?
Yeah, but Arch Manning was going to transfer. I mean, like he wants to play.
Right. Well, he's staying though because Quinn is going to be gone.
Yeah, they were lucky they got him to stay because he was like
personality wise, and Quinn Ewers obviously a Texas guy, but personality wise, those guys fit well. So even though they're and that's what I'm not saying we're going to be able to pay that kind of money, but we need guys that fit Uconn, that are exceptional athletes that have a certain level of fit the culture. And I thought that the Colorado thing was a great thing to bring up because you see how there's a disconnect, right, between
Colorado's a free for all.
The elite players and the guys who are, those guys who are,
the right guard.
They're giving everything they have, but they're not like taking care of like the other guys. And
no,
there's a disconnect, and there's a team disconnect where
there's going to be jealousy. There's going to be a lot of issues.
I don't win, right? There are teams that don't win, but have can maintain their culture until they turn things around, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of teams that are able to do that if they see progress, and UConn might fall into that, right? So teams can do that, all right? But there are teams that if it's a free-for-all, you're not going to get there. So there's no continuity, and there's no path to get there, even if you're losing games. So all that happens is when it's a free-for-all, guys just aren't playing as good. They just
like Jamar said, they're not playing for each other. They're not playing for the team. They're playing for themselves individually, and that's what they're losing.
If you win, then you're okay. But as soon as you lose, you're in trouble, right? So And that's the key
Well,
thing.
the expectations, yeah.
Teams that like lose, there are teams like I thought last year LSU's team lost a few early games. They stayed together, played well, you know. But there are teams that were able to do that, right? But
That
there are
overcome it, yeah.
you know, you play a tough schedule early on. You lose a few couple. It could happen. You lose a couple of games, but then you reel off 9 straight as you get to the normal part of your schedule. You're 9-2. You're playing for a conference championship, whatever, right? You can't always predict how the schedule is going to be for you, right? So, but if you're culturally good, when those bumps in the road happen, you're able to ride it, right? But if you're not culturally good, when those bumps in the road happen, all of a sudden you lose 3 or 4 games that you shouldn't have lost. That's
You have dissension.
difference. You know,
You can
that's
have
when you go
dissension.
4-8 for when you should have been 7-5 or whatever. You know what I mean? That's when you start to see, and that's where you see
Yeah.
and I think that was the biggest thing that I learned from this game. I thought the way that they rebounded was possibly the culture is good. You know, we don't know for sure because we're not on the inside, but it
No.
seems like possibly the culture is good and that they're on a path
Yeah.
that'll give them a chance to be successful. You know, it
With
doesn't mean
60
they
new
will.
guys, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
right. But it
they
gives them, they turned it around in 1 week. They did what they were supposed to do. Now Duke is an opportunity. It really is. Like
it'd be a big win, yes.
Duke is not that great. They
Or we
barely
can play with them.
We could play with them and anything can happen. And I would love to see coming out of this game, even though we're not yet previewing that game because we'll probably do that later in the week.
Yes.
Uh, but what I like to see coming out of this game is hopefully we win. We want to win. Okay. But if for some reason we do lose, that we're fighting all the way through.
Right. That's not
And that we're in the game.
not a Maryland game. Right.
Yes, that we're in the game, we're fighting with. If that's the case, if that does happen, I think we're going to win all those games that we should win, and I
Yeah.
think we'll make a bowl game.
Yeah.
If we win, I would obviously say that we're on that path as well. Obviously, that would be pretty obvious. If we lose big, then I'm like, oh my god, we're back to the drawing board again. You know, so
Well, and I think, like you said, it's going to depend on what they end up doing at quarterback. If Evers clears the concussion protocol, they may go back to him and not stick with Joe. So that's going to be I think the question of the week. If Evers clears the concussion protocol, is he the starter? That's what
that's
we're
a
going to.
tough. By the way, it is. Even though we made it seem like it was an easy decision, but both of all what I don't think it's an easy decision at all. I do not think that it's an easy decision, and the reason why I don't think it's an easy decision is you specifically brought this guy here to start,
Well,
paid him,
yeah, and you can't judge him off of
and it's hard to judge him off of
3
one
quarters.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple quarters off of a superior opponent. So that is the most difficult thing about the whole thing of whether you choose to go with him, because the positive of, we talked about all the positive going with Fagano, right? The only negative of going to Fagano, if he's ready, is
He's
that you might lose him
a
for good.
5th-year senior. Yeah. You're
No, I'm
right.
saying you
You're
might
right.
lose Evers for good. Like you might
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
Evers, meaning mentally you may lose Evers if you choose
Yeah.
Fagano.
100%.
So
100%.
that's the negative to choose Vagano. And does that affect you if Vagano gets hurt, right?
Well, listen,
Then Evers has got to come back.
the quarterback position, that's
Tough.
the nature of it.
Nature of it.
And I agree with you. I think that if Evers is healthy, from what I've read, and what I've heard, I think that they're going to go with him. I like your idea better. I think you stick with Joe. You stick with the guy who's got the hot hand. And if for some reason he is not performing, go to Evers, put him back in. I think that is the simplest solution. Fagano's a 5th-year senior. He had a great year in 2022. He's your comeback player of the year. I don't know the history of what happened last year when he got hurt, but 5th-year senior, go with him, see what happens. Go back to Evers if you need to, maybe. But I think from everything I've read, and there's not a lot to read, but from all the news out there, it's Ever's job. So we'll see what
There we
happens.
go. Well, till next time. Go ahead. You finish it out, my man.
Here we go. Hey, for Husky Huddle, Dave Schuman and Steve Cully, the best podcast / radio host in the universe. Remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges and throw them back at life.